So let me get this straight. The same institutions that destroyed the gold standard, printed trillions, inflated everything you eat, made beef a luxury item, and called it transitory. Well, they're now officially worried that aliens might collapse the global financial system. I wish this was a meme. This is not Reddit. This is not Twitter. This is a major newspaper reporting that the Bank of England has been told to prepare for a market crash if the US confirms alien life. Yes, aliens. You can't make this crap up. A former senior analyst at the Bank of England just warned the governor that one sentence from the White House could trigger bank runs, frozen payment systems, market chaos, and civil unrest. Not because aliens would invade, but because confidence would collapse. And here's the part that should make your skin crawl. Banks don't plan for jokes. They don't plan for science fiction. They plan for loss of trust. And while they're quietly gaming out ontological shock, that's the polite academic term for people realizing they've been lied to about reality itself, the Federal Reserve is about to inject $55.3 billion into the system over the next 3 weeks, one of the largest liquidity injections in US history. At the same time, the average price of ground beef just hit a record $6.67 a pound, up 72% since 2020. Chicken up, coffee up, sugar, snacks, oils, all up. Food inflation is crushing people, but don't worry, the system is fine. Gold just hit a new all-time high. Bitcoin's back under 93K. And somewhere, Peter Schiff is doing this, probably victory lapping on CNBC as we speak. So tell me, is it over? Or have we only just begun? Because when central banks are printing like it's 2008, when food prices are screaming recession, when gold is signaling fear, and when global financial institutions are, well, openly modeling alien disclosure as a systemic risk, that's a system admitting it has no margin for error left. And here's the irony. The same analysts that say aliens could collapse trust in governments also admit that people might flee into assets that don't rely on governments at all. Digital, neutral, scarce. We got some absolutely insane stuff to get to today, so strap in, that's right. Send it! All right, here we go. First story of the day, and I need you to understand this is not a skit. This is not the legend Alex Jones. This is a major newspaper reporting that the Bank of England has been urged to plan for a financial crisis if the United States confirms alien life. Yes, aliens. And here's the direct quote. The Bank of England must plan for a financial crisis being triggered by an official announcement confirming the existence of alien life. So, who the hell is saying this? A woman named Helen McCaw. She served as a senior analyst in financial security at the Bank of England. And she wrote directly to Andrew Bailey, the governor of the Bank of England, telling him, "You need contingencies. You need a plan, because if the White House ever confirms we're not alone, it could trigger economic collapse." And she uses this term, and it sounds academic, but it's actually terrifying. Ontological shock. That's the moment where the public realizes reality itself is not what they were told, and her point is brutal. Aliens wouldn't cause the panic, the announcement would. The instant confirmation drops, she says trust collapses. Markets spiral, banks face runs, payments freeze, supply chains break, shortages follow, and social order starts cracking before people even understand what was said. And this is the key. Listen closely. Banks don't collapse when the math collapses. They just print more cuckbucks. Banks collapse when confidence collapses, and that's what this story is really about. It's not little green men, it's not flying saucers. It's what happens when people suddenly believe the people in charge don't actually know what's going on. And then the questions start. Who knew? For how long? What else did they hide? What else are they lying about? And markets hate unanswered questions. Markets don't price reality shifts very well. Now, she bases this on the fact that the US has had more official statements, declassifications, and UAP talk becoming less fringe over time. And again, important, she's not saying it's imminent. She's saying even if the possibility is low, the consequences are so massive, you have to plan anyway. And here's where it gets insane. She explicitly lists what she thinks people should run to if trust collapses. She said you could see a rush to safe assets like physical gold, precious metals, some government bonds. But then she says, hey, maybe gold doesn't even work, because if the public starts speculating that spacefaring technology or CERN could massively increase the supply of precious metals, then gold loses its narrative. And then she drops the line that matters for this show. She says there could be a rush to digital currencies such as Bitcoin, because if people question the legitimacy of government, they lose trust in government-backed assets. Bitcoin starts looking like the lifeboat it truly is. So let's translate into normal English. The Bank of England isn't afraid of aliens. They're afraid of a confidence event so powerful that it breaks the spell. Because modern finance is built on assumptions that tomorrow looks like today, that institutions are competent, that the narrative is stable, that the people at the top are in control. And if that illusion breaks, even for a few hours, you could get bank runs, payment failures, panic. And in that panic, people don't run toward paper promises. They run toward what they can verify. And Bitcoin is the ultimate verify, don't trust asset. No CEO, no central banks, no committee, no emergency meeting, no we'll print our way out of this one. Just math, scarcity, and settlement. So yeah, it's pretty funny on the surface. Central bank prepares for aliens? Yeah, cute. But underneath it is the most revealing thing you're gonna read all year. The entire system knows it's fragile. It knows everything runs on belief. And it knows the moment belief breaks, people will stampede into anything that doesn't require permission. Which is why this story is actually bullish. Not because aliens are real, but because the system is admitting the truth. It cannot survive a trust event. And Bitcoin is literally designed for trust events. All right, coming up, we're going to connect this to what's happening in the markets right now, because the funny part is, well, this story drops at the exact same time central banks are back to doing what they always do when confidence fades. Tee up Jim Morrison, because strange things are happening. Or everything is going exactly as planned, whichever side of the fence you're on. Nothing is stopping this train, because while central banks are quietly modeling alien disclosures as a systemic risk, one of the largest money prints in history is happening right now. Here are the facts. An $11 billion infusion hit on June 30th, then in October, $50 billion. And in total, after basically doing nothing since 2020, the New York Fed has transferred over $420 billion to Wall Street in just the last 7 months. That's nearly the same size as the 2008 bank bailouts. So yeah, aliens, bullish for Bitcoin. Bailouts, bullish for Bitcoin. What else we got? Oh, it looks like a new trade war just kicked off. Just in, President Trump announced 10% tariffs on France, Germany, the UK, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland, the Netherlands, and get this, those tariffs jumped to 25% on June 1st, unless a deal to acquire Greenland is reached. Yes, Greenland.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Nothing. Me? Just hanging around.
And now the EU is threatening to halt approval of the US-EU trade deal entirely. So let me get this straight. Aliens might collapse the global economy. And we're about to tariff Europe into submission over Greenland? I mean, what the hell is in Greenland? Well, Greenland sits in a critical Arctic position between North America, Europe, and Russia. As the ice melts, new shipping routes open. Russia and China are moving fast. Greenland is rich in uranium, gold, oil, and strategic minerals. And it is a massive defense asset. So yeah, from a geopolitical standpoint, the move kind of makes sense. Now the question some are pondering, are they hiding alien tech under the ice? I don't know. I actually stopped believing in aliens the moment the government said they were real. But for entertainment and educational purposes, let's watch this.
Now, how many of you know about the object in Greenland? A couple of you, okay. Well, for those of you that don't know, there is a spacecraft that has melted out of the ice in Greenland. As you know, the North Pole has melted completely. You can go from London to Moscow or to Russia by going over the North Pole now. All the ice cap is gone. The last place that has ice on it was Greenland. Greenland had a 18,000-foot ice cap on it. Well, the spacecraft that is anchored in the center of Greenland created the last ice age 50,000 years ago. It's a weather machine. It's 55 miles wide, 300 miles long, and 2 miles high. The people that lived in it were called the Mois. If you draw a straight line from the spacecraft through the Washington Monument in Washington, D.C., through the Yucatan Peninsula Great Pyramid at Mitsubishi, and ends up on Easter Island where the moais have been dug out of this dirt. The heads on Easter Island, well, 2 years ago they finally went ahead and they excavated, and they're all 65 to 85 foot people, full body carvings. And these were the people that lived in the spacecraft that was uncovered that's melting out of the ice in Greenland. So when you think we've been alone, these people have been up there for 50,000 years. The spacecraft is still active after 50,000 years. It has a 200-mile dampening field where no electrons can flow into it. In 1947, a B-52 bomber flew into that pattern, into the dampening field, when trying to fly between Maine and London. As a result of that, they lost power and crashed in Greenland. As they sent in rescue B-52 bombers to rescue them, they hit that same dampening field, but they veered off. They just ricocheted off of it. And by testing, trying to get to these guys, they were able to bring a circumference and find out that there was an object 200 miles to the center of this field. On the southwest corner of Greenland, there is a small community. It's the only community on the island of Greenland. That community is a military post, CIA, that uses a compressed air generator to operate diesel engines to run a Caterpillar to run back and forth to 200 miles from the base to the object in Greenland. A lot of our technology comes from the reverse engineering out of the spacecraft. It is still functional and is still in operation. So it's pretty important what this thing is. All the nations worldwide are up there with the United Nations, and they're all acting, working together.
Absolutely insane. Anyway, back to reality. Europe is losing its mind. France's President Macron is now calling for the EU to activate its anti-coercion instrument. That's their nuclear option. It would restrict U.S. access to EU markets, potentially block U.S. banks from EU procurement, and target American tech giants. This trade weapon has never been used before. So what's Trump's actual goal here? This is where the tariff playbook matters, and here's the short version. Trump always leads with a punishing threat. He announces it when markets are closed. He applies pressure publicly. Markets always sell off emotionally, then slowly investors realize the tariffs aren't even live yet. Dip buyers step in, negotiations begin, a deal gets teased, markets rip higher. Repeat. That's the playbook. And according to the Kobesi letter, the next 48 hours are critical. The EU has an emergency meeting scheduled that puts us right on step 4 of the cycle. Expect aggressive rhetoric, but also an opening to negotiate. U.S. futures open Sunday night. Markets reopen Tuesday due to the holiday, which means short-term volatility and then opportunity. And this is the through line. Aliens, liquidity injections, trade wars, tariffs, Greenland, it all sounds chaotic, but it's the same story. The system is scrambling to secure the future, and it's doing so using the same tools that broke it in the first place: printing, threats, narratives, control. Meanwhile, the forgotten man gets crushed by inflation, chaos, instability, and is basically destitute in his own country.
I don't give a about Iran either. Sorry. Throw them out if you don't like them. It has nothing to do with me. And the fact that the idea that I have to give a flying, you should be standing with Iran. Shut the up. Will you shut the up? If they want to throw the who run Iran out, throw them the out. But the idea that the United States of America, when people can't afford houses and they can't afford health care, spends all its time talking about the Middle East and Arabs and Jews and religion and the temple and slaughtering the heifer and Iran and Sunnis and Shiites. Get what the is going on? Truly, what the is going on? That we're told, well, is Iran Sunni or Shia? What is happening? Okay? Our own country is being destroyed, and it's going down the toilet.
Thank you, Timmer. Everyone is feeling that right now. I mean, you can't even go to church in peace without risk of some lunatic doing something reprehensible. This is America now. And here's the truth. Whether it's Europe, Australia, Canada, where the hell ever. They're broke.
It is my opinion that you do not really understand the concept of banking. All the banks are broke. Bank Santander, Deutsche Bank, Royal Bank of Scotland, they're all broke. And why are they broke? It isn't an act of God. It isn't some sort of tsunami. They're broke because we have a system called fractional reserve banking, which means that banks can lend money that they don't actually have. It's a criminal scandal, and it's been going on for too long. To add to that problem, you have moral hazard, a very significant moral hazard from the political sphere. And most of the problem starts in politics and central banks, which are part of the same political system. We have counterfeiting, sometimes called quantitative easing, but counterfeiting by any other name. The artificial printing of money, which if any ordinary person did, they'd go to prison for a very long time. And yet governments and central banks do it all the time. Central banks repress the amount of interest that rates are, so we don't have the real cost of money. And yet we blame the real retail banks for manipulating LIBOR. The sheer effrontery of this is quite astonishing. It's central banks that manipulate interest rates, Commissioner. And plus, underneath all this, we talk loosely, in a rather cavalier fashion, do we not, about deposit guarantees. So when banks go broke through their own incompetence and chicanery, the taxpayer picks up the tab. It's theft from the taxpayer. And until we start sending bankers, and I include central bankers and politicians, to prison for this outrage, it will continue.
They'll create any narrative. They'll go to any length to avoid accountability. And the only way out of that system is to operate outside of it. We're about to bring it home, but before we do, look at our likes.
3 or 4 times, maybe.
I gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
Let's take a moment to recognize our sponsors powering this show over at the Bitcoin Way. At the Bitcoin Way, they'll walk you through all things Bitcoin, like it's kindergarten with Satoshi. From setting up your first wallet to running your first node and so much more. No tech skills needed. The Bitcoin Way has got you covered. You want $1 million Bitcoin? Better act like it. Self-custody is not optional. That is the revolution. Schedule a free 30-minute consultation with the Bitcoin Way today using that link in the show notes. Today's show is brought to you by Ledn. If you ever need cash without selling your Bitcoin, Ledn makes that possible. The global leader in Bitcoin-backed lending, Ledn has issued over $9 billion in loans since 2018. And they have a perfect record of protecting client assets. No credit checks, funds in less than 6 hours, no monthly payments, repay whenever you want with 0 penalties, and proof of reserves reports, verified by a top accounting firm, are published every 6 months. Ledn gives Bitcoin holders a secure, transparent way to unlock liquidity without selling. Learn more at learn.ledn.io/simply. That's learn.ledn.io/simply.
So all over the world, if you measure in Bitcoin, prices are falling to the marginal cost of production. The only difference is so all over the world, if you're pricing in whatever fiat instrument, prices are rising. So essentially, Bitcoin is telling you the truth in what's happening in the world. And it doesn't matter if the debt gets destroyed or hyperinflated away. Bitcoin, just being an honest ledger, is imposing that discipline. And you can measure what should be happening in a free market. In other words, prices falling, the marginal cost of production, is happening in Bitcoin. So now, Bukele entering into Bitcoin, his bonds are getting upgraded twice, while U.S. bonds are getting downgraded. That system is, and it starts really small in networks. So you have a global network effect. Anybody on Bitcoin, in other words, any person on the planet that knows right now could say, I'm going to move out of a system that is going to constantly steal my wages into a system that doesn't. And because it's an open monetary network, open decentralized system, anybody on the planet can do that. And what's happening is, as people are starting to see that, they're moving, and they're starting to cluster in regions. And as those clustering and as there's trading within this on a circular economy on that, it's expanding. And it's expanding all over the world in different regions, some faster than others. And Bitcoin Beach, which was a small experiment, but then when this corner store gets on, another person, then all of a sudden other people want to see what's happening there, and more people go to El Salvador to see what's happening there. And then it moves into the president saying, wait, we can give economic freedom to our country and step out of this punishing system by adopting Bitcoin. Then the president sees it and adopts it. And then more people start to see it. Then other countries start to say, wait, what are we doing in this repressive system? We're going to do it. But the point is, and then BlackRock does it, but it doesn't matter who, every single individual on this planet, if they know, can front run the entire everyone else. And that system is for all of us instead of for a small few of us.
Wild times, but we are here for a reason. Take care of one another, love one another, pray for one another, and stack honest, sound money. And the possibility of World War III is higher than ever, which is probably a good time to visit our new sponsor, Sat123. Because when cell service dies, life doesn't have to. Sat123 hooks you up with real satellite phones, Starlink kits, and rugged off-grid internet that works anywhere. Mountains, ocean, middle of nowhere, it doesn't matter. If you care about preparedness, freedom, and staying connected when it actually counts, go to sat123.com. That's sat123.com, and don't forget to use promo code SIMPLY for 15% off. No signal? No problem. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Let us know what you think below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and give us a pamp. Share the Sound Money Gospel, and I'll catch you all on Wednesday. Love you guys. Peace.
If you prefer to go down with the ship, you.